Do we even need the mic? I used to facilitate in this class without a mic. I always used to speak loud. It's still a very good morning to you all, colleagues. Thank you so much for coming through. Thank you for making the time to join us here. We truly appreciate it. We know it's cold. With the cold front happening in the Cape side, you still managed to come through and be with us. We truly appreciate that. We also appreciate our panelist members for joining us, for taking the time to be here with us today. So before we can even start, I would like to have Ms. Patience Nyoni, our CEO. Lack of a better word for academics, we call her the head of program, to then officiate the event and open it for us. Then we can start from there.
Thank you very much, Luyanda. A very good morning to you all. A special welcome to our esteemed guests and also to our valued students. How are you, managers? Are you okay? I feel like I'm talking to my grandmothers and grandfathers. Okay, welcome everyone. We are very excited as Regenesis Business School to have you here today. It means a lot for us as an institution. Why are we here today? That must be the big question that each and every one of you may be asking. Of course, we have been sending out communication, but just to give an overview. As Regenesis Education, Regenesis Business School, now we are Regenesis Education in our aspirations to be a university in the near future. So we, as Regenesis Business School, we are in the business of developing holistic leaders, ethical leaders. We also look and tap into what is happening around us. We are also looking into the socio-economic challenges, the unethical practices, and the economic challenges that we are facing. So as an institution, we have actually reviewed to say, what can we do to contribute to the economy? We may be an educational institution, but you'd find that Regenesis Education has a lot of entrepreneurship in its approach to business. We are in the business of transforming lives. So we also actually filter that to our learners to make sure that they also understand the practices of entrepreneurship. As such, we really have a close relationship with the industry because us as academics, we may not know it all. We may actually have the knowledge from a theoretical perspective. So to glue that gap and make sure that there's practical practices, we also engage the industry. So today, we have esteemed panelists in their own rights that have actually walked the journey of being an entrepreneur. They are going to engage with us and share with us their experiences that they have encountered in their journey of being esteemed entrepreneurs. So thank you very much, valued students, for coming today. We really appreciate your presence today. Thank you very much, our panelists, for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patience Nyoni, for the lovely and warm welcome. I'll now ask our customer relations manager to come through and say these few words and introduce the team that managed to support us in having this event. Mr. Moipati.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, our wonderful panelists, our wonderful managers. Thank you guys for coming through, especially in this kind of weather. My name is Mompati. I'm from the CRM student support. I think if there are some of our students here, I think some of us, we are actually meeting for the first time face to face. So basically what we are responsible for is to make sure that your experience as a Regenesis student is as seamless as possible, just to make sure that you guys have very good experience while you're here with our Genesis. But in doing so, I've got a wonderful team that actually is helping us in that regard. From our undergrad BBA, we've got Faith. Kabadeli Faith will normally assist the BBA ones. Faith, just stand up so they can see you. On the BBA too, we've got Kelly. Unfortunately, due to other commitments in terms of serving our students, some of our colleagues are not here, but nevertheless, I will just introduce them. And we also have Daly as well, who also helps with our students on the second level. And then on the third year level, we've got Tulani is also engaged with our students in class at the moment. Tulani deals with the BBA 3s, and then we've got our colleagues from the undergrad. We've got Joyce, who's also managing the team from that side. Joyce, can you just stand up so the guys can see you? And then we've got one of our new additions, Mbali. She's settling in nicely. She's also assisting us with Ed for All students. And I think it would be very unfortunate if I don't mention our class reps and class mentors that have been helping us in making sure that we are abreast in terms of what is happening on the ground, that are helping us directing our students. I'm not sure how many of our class reps are here. I know Robin is here. I think, Robin, just please stand up so that the team can also see you. Robin is one of our class reps and class mentors who's helping us a lot with our students, making sure they are fully engaged. I don't know if there's any of our mentors or class reps among us here that I did not acknowledge. Okay, no, thank you so much, guys. And yeah, I'll thank you for the panelists. If you guys are here, I know the show will start. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muipate. Colleagues, before we then start, I think we can lay some ground rules. So if the alarm goes up, we know where to then move. We'll have to move outside, go to the reception, and then move outside with that door. If anything happens, any hazards that happens. The toilets are also just near the reception, just where we just integrated to this room on the other far right side. So that's where you'll find your toilets. And then colleagues will have a 1 hour discussion. We'll be looking at 2 discussions first, and then we'll have our tea break at 10:30. Then we'll then return at 10:45 from our tea break, and then we'll be able to then engage and conclude the business of the day. Right. If we may ask, if you have your cell phones on speaker, we can now put them maybe on silence and so forth. Okay, thank you so much. With that then being said, I think we can then start the event. And thank you so much, colleagues, once again for coming through. In terms of, I think maybe most of you are trying to take that leap of faith as well, in terms of transitioning from being employed to now becoming your own boss, to be calling the shots. I think here we will hear from people who have walked through that road, people with experience, people with insights. They will assist us in terms of providing the guide, in terms of how does one transition from being an employee to become an entrepreneur. Before then, we can then start. I will then introduce our panelist members to you, colleagues, and then I will allow them to say some few words, and then we can be able to start our event. On our far left from our side, I think from your end it will be your far right, we have Mr. Sam Tsima. He is a founder, CEO, executive, and a digital coach at Cometa International. Mr. Sam Tsima is an entrepreneur, self-employed, as well as the CEO of the Cometa International. He's more into human capital, human development, management of people, leadership development, as well as specialized in coaching, and is also specialized in terms of mentoring, providing advisory. He also does facilitation, training, as well as development, and as well as business networking. He's a member and a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. So if you are looking for any business advice, any coaching, he's the man for you. Do you want to maybe add, Mr. Zem, from this? Oh, as we go. Okay, thank you so much. We can clap hands for Mr. Zem. Thank you. And then just closer to him, we have Mr. Derek Nzavi. He's a managing director at the Institute of Business Advisors, Southern Africa. He's an entrepreneurologist. He's a business advisor of note. He's currently the managing director of the Institute of Business Advisors. Mr. Derek is also a founder of a New Discovery BS, an enterprise development company based in Johannesburg. He's also an accredited business advisor, and he has some mentorship as well as advisory experience for more than 24 years. Mr. Derek, do you want to add? Do you want to add from this introduction?
No, thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Thanks. We next to Mr. Derek, we then have Mr. Savelo Mieni. Mr. Savelo Mieni is a CEO at Sisakelo Sustainable Institute. He's an experienced awarding business developer, entrepreneur, and a business turnaround strategist. He's also a founder of Sabinguni Investments. He serves as a board member and awards committee member at the Institute of People Management. He contributes to the youth development training, mentoring and coaching as well. He's also a speaker on various topics such as emerging technologies. We know that we have AI now happening. He's also a speaker within human resource, leadership, as well as what we hear for entrepreneurship, of course. Mr. Stavelo, do you want to add?
I just want to say good morning. I just want to say that my professional journey actually started with this very same company in terms of work, in terms of studying. I actually acquired my MBA from this institution. So for me, this is full circle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Savelo. We also bring you our alumni to also engage you so he knows what you guys are going through. He has also worked through those steps. Thank you for adding that. We also have our esteemed guest as well, Mr. Banele Shabalala, who's a managing director at Dark Taste. Banele Shabalala is a dynamic entrepreneur, a seasoned leader with a rich background in terms of marketing, digital innovation, as well as events management. As the advisory and founder of the Dark Taste, a premier brand marketing, graphic design, web, as well as application development agency, Banele leverages his extensive experience from leadership roles that he then acquired from different corporates such as Samsung, Vodacom, as well as Liberty to drive transformation and growth as well as innovation. Do you want to add from there, Mr. Banele?
Nothing from my side, but I look forward to having the discussion, and thank you guys for coming.
Then just next to Mr. Banele, we have Mr. Bernard Malulega. He's the managing director at Pima Group. He has a rich corporate experience coupled with entrepreneurial exposure and as well as experience in terms of running and scaling business. He has acquired 10 years of corporate experience. Majority of it is within sales as well as business development with the focus in terms of sub-Saharan Africa. He knows what it takes to start as well as grow a business because that's where he also started. He's also a founding member of a premium Brazilian footwear distribution company with a national footprint of mono-branded concept stores and a full function branding specific e-commerce site. Mr. Bernard, do you want to add from there?
No, not really. I think, oh yeah, the other thing, I'm also a master athlete. I'm a rower.
Thank you, Mr. Bernard. And then lastly, from our panelist members who are here, we have Ms. Pam and Zuma, if I'm pronouncing your surname correctly. She's the founder as well as a managing director at Zuma Consulting. If guys, you have issues with your tax, I know it's a tax season. This is the person that you look at, personal filing or even company. She can be able to assist us. Ms. Pam is a founder as well as the director of Zuma Consulting, an esteemed firm specializing in bookkeeping, tax, payroll, and advisory services for small businesses with over 20 years of experience within the financial service industry. Ms. Pam brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise to her role with her dedication to helping entrepreneurs and develop her deeper understanding of business finance, which is something at the heart of what she does with her work. Ms. Pam, do you want to add from this introduction?
Yes, sure. Good morning. Good morning, soon-to-be business owners. How are you feeling? I hope you are so excited, and I want to congratulate you for making this decision. Moving from employment to being an entrepreneur was the best thing I ever did for myself. So your world is about to open, so congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Pam. We truly appreciate it. I think then with that being said, we can then start. I don't know if we may have maybe further comments from our panelist members. I don't think so at this stage. We can then start in terms of our event colleagues. Thank you, colleagues, once again for joining us. We truly appreciate it. We know that you would have loved to be within your blankets, you know, feeling warm, drinking tea. But you still said, you know what, I'm going to come and I'm going to learn. In as much as you are here to learn, our panelist members are also here to learn from you. They will learn from you through the questions that you'll then engage them with, and as well as through the networking that will then happen during tea break time at 10:30, and as well as after then. With that then being said, I think we can then commence. To our panelist members, just before we then start, we won't impose any questions or any discussions to you. You can address anyone, it will be on the floor. Any question that you think you are feeling comfortable to address, we can allow that. You can come through, right? And then you can address that. And to our esteemed audience, colleagues, we will have what we call a close engagement in between the moderator, being myself, with the panelist members in terms of Q&A, question and answer, me asking them questions or engaging with them. And then after, what will then happen is that at the end of the session, we'll then allow the floor for you to have your Q&A session. You'll have 20 minutes to ask questions. And how we'll then cycle that, we'll have 2 questions from the floor and allow the panelist members to then address those and then ask another 2 questions and so forth and so forth. Does that accord with everybody? Thank you so much. Colleagues, being an entrepreneur, it's one of the most difficult things. I also know it personally from myself. I've tried with failures. I'm also here to learn and get some guidance. And some of the panelist members, they know my journey as well in terms of trying and failing and getting up again. So one of the nice things about being within a corporate space, and something that we take for granted, it's the ecosystem, the support function that comes with it. There's a support function where if there's something wrong with your laptop, there's an IT guy for it. You know, you can just dial IT, It's like what Henry Ford was saying to say, I can't answer all your questions. If you want something, I just have a phone, I can press a button and dial somebody to answer all those questions for you. That's the nicer part about a corporate is that there is that support function, there's that ecosystem. If somebody is not performing, you have HR to assist you. If you want to recruit, you have HR to assist you. If you are lacking with sales, we are lacking with creating presence, there's marketing and sales department to assist you. But being an entrepreneur, there is no that ecosystem. You are the ecosystem. It means that you are HR, you are the one who recruits, you are IT, right? We normally now use your ChatGPT, we use your YouTube in terms of assisting us, with any glitches that we face technically. But I'm just trying to relate to say those are some of the challenges in terms of you being an entrepreneur, right? And with that then being said, when do you know when it's the right time now to say, now I want to now move away from all this comfort zone, all this support function that I have, this ecosystem, and become an entrepreneur and then stand alone? When is the right time? What are the key indicators that one should, our audience here with us, that they should be looking at in terms of within their career to say, now is the right time for them to then transition from being employees and become entrepreneurs? I think that's the question that I will then put to our panelist members to say, when did you know personally that now it's the right time to say, now I'm leaving my work, I'm tired of being comfortable, now I want to become the entire ecosystem? Panelist members?
Looks like I'm the one to start because I'm next to the microphone. Yeah, let me give you a little bit of a context in terms of transitioning from employment to being self-employed, and I'll reflect on my experience without over-elaborating. Because I've been in an environment where I interact with employees, and sometimes employees left me to go and do their own stuff, so I have a point of reference to use. But I think if you are progressive in the way you manage your career, it should be clear to you at some stage you may make a transition. Now, as to when that is going to come, there's no clarity. So in my case, I started this as a process because I never wanted it to be an event. But in 2008, I think you remember what was happening in 2008, 2009. We had the global financial crisis. And the company I was working for, which was Motorola then, was winding down. And the good thing was that I had already started the process of actually preparing myself, because I work in an environment where I was an internal consultant, and you get to a point where you realize that the knowledge you have, nobody really is prepared to pay for it, right? I mean, sometimes we develop ourselves so much that nobody's going to pay you for all of what you know. They want to pay you for what they employ you for. Now, from a personal point of view, that is very hard because you know you can do more than what they're asking you to do. And I knew that then that was a time for me to start transitioning. I had already built my profile on LinkedIn. I had a great connection, and it happened. So what I'm saying is, don't look at it as an event. If you think it's an event, you're going to miss the point. So it's a process. At a certain point in life, you must start thinking about transitioning, right? And you need to know what you need to do. One of those, and I know there are experts on branding here, is you build your own brand. So in my case, I was lucky in the sense that my brand, actually even today, I'm still battling to make my personal brand to be subservient to my company's brand. So if you build your own brand, that is really the beginning, yeah? So you build it while you are in the organization, but you need to be always ready for this, because sometimes, like in my case, even though I had planned for it, but the crisis came, the company was collapsing. I was the HR director for Africa, And I was actually one who was driving the process of winding down. So I had a lot of insights as to what was going to happen. But I was ready, right? My company is 27 years old. Now, people are going to say, but how so? It's 27 years old because I started it while I was still there at APSA as an NGO. And then I transitioned, right? And how I started it, I immediately openly declared it to the company that I'm doing some stuff. Because if you don't declare it, you're not going to be able to grow it while you are working. It's only in 2008 when I left corporate that I actually created a commercial side. So there's no need for you not to start just because you are being employed, but just be ethical about it. And don't do business that is in contradiction with your company. So don't do business in the company industry because you're going to be conflicted. My boss told me straight, you're working for the bank, you're running an NGO, if you mess up, we're going to kill you. Because you can't work for the bank and then run a business that fails. It was clear from the beginning. So my transition was not an event, it was a process. When the time came, I was ready. My brand was there already. And although it was known as a Commerza, which was a development football club, right in Hillbrow. And then when I went into my own, I had to reposition it, but the brand was already there. So that's really the tip I want to give everyone to say, don't wait for when is the time to leave. It's too late. A lot of people say, I wait to be told to go on retirement, I'll start a business. Why didn't you start? Long time ago. So that's that. I want to leave that as a question mark, and then we can talk about it a little bit later. How do we do it without actually conflicting with your own business? And how you split the time between yourself and work. You'll never find me during working hours doing my work. So that means extra work, right, after hours. So that's really my little insight that I can share with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sam, and for your experience. I wish it was that long for me also. But thank you, Leander, for invitation, and thank you, Suspicious, for welcoming us, and everybody else, and thanks for coming, and thanks to the panelists that we are here today. I'm sitting next to Sabel, who's wearing a batu, and I'm looking at mine. It's not batu, it's Jordan. I was like, can you sit somewhere far away, please? Because you'll take attention away from me. Yeah, but also, Luanda and Suspicious, we need to put a disclaimer. We are not here as lecturers, right? Because there are people who go to the media and say, I was a lecturer at Regenesis, in this day. No, we are just here as panelists. So we're just here to share our experience, our knowledge, what we know, and what we have learned through the years. And also, I think for me, it's about to understand that when you talk about transition is not an abrupt turning. It's a process. And as a process, it means that you need to have steps to say, how do I transition? There has to be a change management in the process. I remember when I resigned, actually it's 2 blocks away from here. It was Discovery Health in their first building where I was working in the year 2000. And I was sitting there, and here comes this young man walking around the passages, and they said, that's the CEO of the company. I said, no ways. I'm going to start my own company. And then I went to start, guess what's the name of my company? New Discovery. Got registered. And since 2000, I've never looked back. I've never looked back. So I would say that I'm a good example of somebody who left the workplace to go and start a business. But now, you don't just start. I just want to make a scenario. I won't be long, sir. You need to make a visual move before you can make a physical move. When you sit in front of a chessboard and you see the pawns, the kings, all these things, before you make a move, you make it in your mind first. You already know how many steps you would have made before your opponent can even play. That is how it should be when you transition. You don't just wake up and say, I'm quitting my job today because I want to start my business. You need to calculate, how will I survive for the next 6 months? How will I survive for the next 3 years? Should I start this business? What's going to happen if things go wrong? He spoke about 2008. That was a recession year where a lot of companies collapsed. Now you have to ask yourself, should recession hit, how will I caution myself? Do I have enough saved? Do I have enough team? A lot of employees, what they do is, because a friend took a package and went to buy the car and start an Uber, you think that you will do the same and you will succeed. No. Your friend has a loyal driver. You won't find a loyal driver. So you need to calculate. Don't just go emotionally. Just because somebody has started, then I'm just going to start and I know that I'm going to make it. No, it doesn't work that way. So you need to calculate every move, every step, like the game of chess. You need to make those calculations and tell yourself, what will be my next move? If that move goes wrong, you start again. That is life. That is life. And if it means that after starting your business, you realize after 2 years it's not working, don't be ashamed to go and look for a job. No. I went in 2010 after when the recession hit. I looked around, I said, which company did I help to build that can employ me? Then I called the guy, I said, listen, man, I want to be a consultant for your company. I want you to pay me, and I will give you 3 days of my time. And guess what? After a year, 3 days became the whole week. Because they said, you know what? We're not going to let you go. We want to increase your salary. But I knew that by 2012, I need to go back to industry again and do my business. And when the economy recovered, then I went back because there are some external factors, even if you can force it, they are against you. It's not about you. You don't blame yourself. You can resign today. Tomorrow COVID hits. Are you going to blame yourself and say, I made a wrong decision? No, you did not know about COVID. So those are the things that we have to put in mind when we go and start our own business and start our own operation. Just for the sake of time, because I'll be given another time, so that Luyanda mustn't say, no, I won't give him another time. I'm going to pass the mic. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I think once again, thank you for this opportunity, Luyanda and Regenesis Business School, and thank you for coming. I understand that there are people who are also online. I just want to acknowledge them. I think in answering the question when, which is very, very loaded, it's very important to look at the context. I like telling my story by connecting the dots backward. I think from a very young age, I never saw myself as an employee for some reason, because I grew up in a family of hardworking grandparents. My grandfather was a community leader. He was always involved in so many things. So by default, as kids, as a home, you'll find ourselves working so hard, waking up every morning, doing whatever that he was doing. And my grandmother at some point, she was a tobacco farmer, so it means we would go to farm tobacco, assist there. I think at the time, obviously, we're doing these things subconsciously. You don't understand the impact that these things have on you. But I think the spirit and the concept of hard work was built when I was still very young, and the spirit of entrepreneurship. And I think as I grew up and went to university, that's when I started, experimenting with so many things. I started selling stuff at university to students. At the time, I can even mention it here. I was selling condoms, partnered with a company called Population Service International, because there was a scourge at the time of HIV and AIDS. I was involved in an organization that we started, peer education and counseling. And I think from there, I knew that I wanted to be in business. And we started a company with a friend of mine who is now who lives in Tanzania, a web development company. And we wanted to really assist small businesses to digitize. But when I finished university, and I realized that I needed industry experience, I felt like we were wet behind the ears. And and I got an internship opportunity, obviously here at Regenesis. I remember the first thing, maybe after I was told that you successfully passed your internship, I said I want to do an MBA. And I applied for it. They said no. Maybe start with the postgraduate in management first before you can do an MBA. Because for me, I wanted to understand the landscape. I always say that my purpose is human development. I'm really passionate about human development. I'm passionate about youth development. Maybe it's because I grew up in an environment where we're building communities through the initiatives that we're doing with our grandparents, our parents, even my mom, servicing, being a community nurse, for example, was so integral in terms of shaping our thinking and my passion in terms of being in business. But then I decided, and maybe coming closer to your question, Luyanda, then I decided, okay, I want to be in business within the human development space. I made that decision and I said, okay, what is it that I needed to do? I think it's very important if you are going to start any business or transition, understand the business landscape. If you want to go and succeed there, understand the nitty-gritties of that business landscape. And for me, and I think for everyone here, we just want to share the stories as they raw as they are. So I gave myself a timeline. You said it's a process. It's not just like you wake up, you are transitioning. I just took a decision, a personal decision, that I'm going to work for the different institutions in education because I want to be in that space. And I did exactly that. I remember now I was thinking, hey, I've worked for all these business schools, and I started at Genesis, went to VEDS, went to Gibbs, and like, okay, now I fully understand this space, but what is it that I can do now? And if I look at Genesis, I essentially done sales, program management. Shout out, I'm glad to see that you're doing a DBA now. Nelly, I know Nelly for many, many years. She started as an intern as well, so I really love to see the growth that we have amassed. But just before I transitioned, I was very lucky to find a mentor who was the commercial director at Gibbs. And I said, I want to now make the transition into entrepreneurship. And I would like you to be my mentor. And there was a specific reason why I wanted him to be a mentor for me. Because I had studied what he had achieved. I had studied how he was leading us at the time. And I thought he was a little bit different from me. And I wanted someone who was a little bit different, who was very not aggressive in terms of the approach. And then we started, having mentorship sessions. And there was a time where I had applied for positions in two companies. He said, no, do not actually go to those big companies. I think at the time I was now in demand, the industry was recognizing me. He said, go to a small company where you'll be able to run the operations, where you'll be able to have a general horizontal view of the entire business, where you'll have a profit and loss responsibility. I was like, okay, what is that at the time? But an opportunity came and I did exactly that. And I went there. Remember, technically, I have now the knowledge and the experience, but to run a business is something else. And I went to run a small entity in education where I wanted to go. And I did that maybe for a couple of years. I learned, understood the space further, but then I started building my business just before I transitioned. So very important that you understand the landscape, very important that you understand how this business is structured, so that when you move into that space, you are actually, you really understand the space and you'll be able to succeed. One of the things that I say is that in my business, I can actually do everything because I understand the different elements and aspects of the business. Yes, it does not mean if you are not an employee, you cannot run a successful business. But for me, I find that it is better because I went through the process. I understand the different elements. If someone bullshits me, I can see, no, this is not how this thing works. This is how this thing works. But also I can be able to troubleshoot and come up with solutions. I think I will allow Luyanda to add as well. Bandi, the song.
You know, after all those stories, I just feel like saying whatever they said. No, but on the real, when did I know and when is the right time? The honest truth is there never is a right time, and you know when you know. So to take you through my story, the first company I actually ever registered was 9 years ago, and it's turning 10 next year. And we didn't trade fully until about 3-4 years ago. So everything was actually in ground phase for about 5 or so years. Dark Taste, the company which actually afforded me the opportunity to actually sit here and be able to speak to you guys, has been actually around for about 4 years registered. And it only started trading properly March this year. And it's literally been almost exponential growth from there. So how did I know when I had to leave? Oh, funny story is, I was sitting in front of my manager, and the conversation was about growth. And I had a vision of growth, which didn't match what my manager wanted. And then the company had a different type of image in their head of where I needed to go. So if I rewind prior to that, we had conversations of what I wanted and what I envisioned. And they also understood that I had a strong personality, and I wanted certain things to happen within the company. And this actually became the 5th time I'd resigned, by the way. 5th time I'd resigned. Not the same company. I only resigned once, and I don't go back. And the moral of the story behind this is, at that moment, I felt that now actually probably is the time for me to take myself seriously, as I always say I am. So if I'm really serious about positive lives of human beings, which is what I've always wanted, because my first career path, which I actually wanted as a young kid, it only made sense now as I'm actually hearing everybody's story. I wanted to be a psychologist. I can't imagine myself as a psychologist because I'll be joking around all the time. So you'd be sitting there, and I thought I would actually kill everyone. I'm like, but you didn't. I probably would suck at it. But then when I look at it, there's a common thread with psychology being fundamental on how you actually position brands and things and stories. And now I run a fully fledged marketing service which deals a lot with branding, because it gives whatever you're building a soul. Because when all the marketing is gone, the brand lives. So I knew at that moment that it was either you sink or you swim here. You cannot be resigning 5 times in 5 times from companies, and then you're looking at yourself, you've only been in the market for like 10, 15 years. Something's got to give. At some point, you know it deep down that, okay, this is it. But the process, the important part is the process happened prior to that. The company was alive. I was refining the strategy, aligning myself with the right people, I wish I had mentors. It wasn't actually mentors at that time, but I had people who were inspiring me, and people who were coaching me in air quotes. And I say coaching in air quotes because when I read a book from somebody who's sitting in a position which I also envision myself sitting in, for me, that feels like coaching, because you're telling me your experiences so I can navigate through this entire journey without having to go through the same pitfalls. It's the main reason why I still read, and I continue to read. And shall continue to read even further, because there are certain stories which exist already out there, and I don't have to experience it. So for me, it was a number of things culminating to one event where I sat in front of my manager and I said, enjoy your time with me for the next 3 months, because after this you'll be seeing me on TV and seeing me on posters. We'll have a conversation then, but I will bill you the correct amount which I'm actually worth versus what I'm getting paid here. And that's when I actually knew.
All right. Okay, I'll start by sharing I'm in my 40s. So the reason I'm sharing that is to then take you through the journey with me. In identifying the right time to transition, the first question, the key indicators, there is a proverb, I don't know if it's a proverb or saying, African proverb or saying, it says, goats eat where they're tied up. Meaning, when you are at APSA in some department, that's what you know, that's what you are leaving, the hooks and crannies and whatever. So what you need to do is to be attentive in that industry. When you're fully attentive, you will then discover opportunities. Opportunities that are not infringing on your responsibilities, but when you're paying attention to what you're doing, you will then discover those opportunities. How did I personally know that it was the right time to move? I believe you never know. In my case, it was serendipity and the prepared mind converging. So serendipity, it's something that happens. It was supposed to be bad, but then on the other side, it's actually good. And it's like those moments where once you've passed and you look back, you say, "Shoo, how did I cross that road?" It's things like that. And you need to allow a space for serendipity to happen in your life. There's a lot of serendipitous moments. You can't plan, chart it as, it's from here to here, I'll turn here, I'll turn right, I'll turn left. Life gives you lots of four-way stops. And most of those four-way stops, you look back and say, "Shoo, I turned left." I'm alive because I turned left, but you didn't know when you were turning left. So serendipity plays a lot with a prepared mind. Remember, you were looking what you were doing. So those two things converging, then they help you. Professional skills, I'll jump that. Financial planning and security when you're jumping. The one thing is try while you still have that pay slip, max your personal credit limits. Go out there, get as many credit cards as you can, get as many, because all they want is the pay slip. Because once you've made the jump, you will need that money. And most of the time, no one will touch you because you don't have a pay slip. There. In building support network, in my case later on, but this is through trial and error, I had a business coach, personal advisory board. Later on, I will share with you on how you can develop your own personal advisory board, because it is lonely at the top, or even lonely when you go out on your own. I think those are my 2 cents for now.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Everything they've said, I just want to pick up on that. It is so true. It's so applicable to me. So there's 2 questions that have been posed, which is the right time and the key indicators. I believe transitioning is definitely a process. It's not something you wake up one day and say, "I am leaving employment to start my own business." It is truly a transitioning process. And there's many key indicators. I left my job many a times without resigning. Uh, so I'll give you a couple of examples. I remember at this time, I'm a financial manager at a corporate company, and we have a board meeting. So I'm responsible for the finances of the company. So board, meaning that I need to present how the company performed, and. My son is sick. Now I have to make a decision. Do I stay at home, look after my baby, or do I go to work and do what is required of me? That day, I realized there is something wrong with the system. That for me was one of the times where I was like, and I would call that a key indicator that told me something is wrong here. For you, you being here is an indicator, in case you didn't know. A lot of people probably heard, saw the messages, the invites. It didn't speak to them. But for you, it spoke to you. That is your indicator. Sam, as well as the rest of the panelists, mentioned 2008. For me, that was another indicator. If you don't know what happened in 2008, go Google. You are young, probably. So my mother was a pharmacist, and we are from the Eastern Cape, a very small town. Today, we still don't have robots. That's how small it is. My mom started her own pharmacy, and it was doing very well. The support was immense. You know, a black-owned business owner, you know, speaking the people's language, the support was incredible. But then the crash of 2008 happened, and it affected the company a lot. For me, that was another indicator, that there's a lot of small businesses who are great at what they do. She was a phenomenal pharmacist. She knew how to help people heal them. But the finances side of the businesses was not her strongest area. And I'm like, how many engineers are out there? How many construction people are doing and are phenomenal at what they're doing, but the finances are not their strongest area. So for me, that was a call to say, help those people. So when the indicators start adding up, the way you view things and the decisions you make start to change. I was set on working for the largest corporates in South Africa, where when I walk into a room, I say I work for. You go like, okay, I see you, girl. You are that girl, right? I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, but the calling for entrepreneurship was speaking to me, and then I changed. I pivoted from how I wanted my career path to be. I went from working for a large company to going to a small company, similar to one of the panelists said, so that I can start to get a feel of other departments. You touched on, you know, when you come from corporates, there's the IT department. Guys, when I left corporate, the way I missed IT. I didn't know how important IT was. So I'm in finance, and I thought sales fell from the sky. Every month we had new clients we were servicing. I didn't know where they came from. And those are the things that I had to learn in a small company. That's why I went from large corporate to a small company, just so I can see other departments. Again, this is me transitioning. It's not an overnight decision. You have to have a plan. And when the calling has spoken to you, I also think life sort of guides you towards opportunities that will allow you to be able to transition. Now, when is the right time? The right time, I would say, please test the idea. Please test it, right? Test it for me, because I'm an accountant. What I started doing was doing books for small businesses, very small, like one-man show, just so I could see, can I even sell myself? And when I've sold myself, am I able to deliver? So testing your idea can go a long way. Sometimes some ideas you can't test them because they need large capital injections, right? That's where financial projections come in. Is this idea that I want to turn into a business gonna bring me money? And how long is it gonna take? It's pointless for me to invest. Let's say I want to go, I don't know, manufacturing something, and then I need to invest in buying equipment, spending millions of rands, and then it's gonna take me 5 years to start seeing any money coming back. So test your idea before you leave as much as you can. I did not test my idea to the point where I was making the same salary or income from my side hustle as I did in my job. I didn't take it that far. Do I wish I had taken it that far? No. I think that does, for me, kill the spirit of entrepreneurship. When you say you want to be an entrepreneur, you must know you are opening up yourself for risk. You must be willing to take a risk. And learn. Listen to what the market is telling you. When what you thought was gonna happen isn't happening, change. Call it pivoting. It just means change. This, what I thought was gonna work isn't working, change and try something else. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, and that's okay. But when something in you has said, this is for me, do it. That's what I say. You learn along the way. There's certain things you will hear my story, you'll hear everybody else's story, but certain things you have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. And trust me, once you learn that mistake, you will never do it again. And that's just part of the game you said you wanted to play, which is entrepreneurship. So I'm really excited for you guys.
Thank you so much. I think that was a mouthful from our panelist members. I think now that we know in terms of how do we then transition ourselves into becoming entrepreneurs, being at the process, starting internally within your corporate company, I think the fundamental issue now is about money. We have families, right? We have parents that we need to take care of, right? Now the money part, how do we then prepare ourselves to say, now that I'm taking this leap of faith, right? What are some of the strategies that we can put in place in terms of financial preparations before we can leave this stable job to say, now I'm leaving that 50K check, 100K check monthly, to taking this leap of faith, taking this risk? How do we prepare ourselves financially, because we still have our daughters, our sons to take care of, our parents as well to take care of. There is a bond, there is a car. Each month they don't care whether you're working or not. They want to deduct from your salary. How does one prepare themselves financially now that they are leaving the leverage of the stable job, now going into entrepreneurship? I can take 2 comments just from the panelist members, then we can move to the other discussion. Anybody who's open for that?
Yeah, I think actually that question makes a lot of people stay in corporate because they look at their bills and thinking, geez, I can't even survive 1 month without a salary. And the biggest challenge is that a lot of people who are working can't really afford to make that transition to entrepreneurship. Cost of living is high, salaries are not going up, and really we are struggling as people. So now, as an entrepreneur or someone who's trying to or wanting to transition, maybe what I can just do is to share my personal story. I was very meticulous in terms of my planning. I understood the space that I was going into, and I made sure that from a product service point of view, it complies with all of that. So I could actually go and compete. And then I sat down and I looked at the money part to say, if I were to live here, how much am I going to need to survive? How much do I have that will allow me to survive for a couple of months if nothing was coming? Now, generally, when you start a business, it's either you fund it yourself, whether you get family members to fund it, or whether you get an investor. Unfortunately, in my case, I did not have any of that. But because I've been in the industry for quite some time, it is important that you leverage on your networks. I built like networks. I've known people, and some people are willing to invest in you because people do business with us because they know you, they trust you, and they like you. And in my case, I just got one deal and I secured that deal. And I don't know how many times I'd resigned, by the way, from that very same company where they keep on saying, stay. I'll stay because, you know, looking at my bills, it's difficult. So it's very important that you don't make a irresponsible decision where you say, I'm just going to leave and go. Make a calculated decision. If you know your financial situation, especially when you have kids, when you have debts that you have to service every month. If you don't and you can still survive, yes, then take that. Entrepreneurship, again, it's about taking risks. If you are not going to take that risk, then you are not going to be able to make that transition. So in my case, I made sure that I had something, but that something was going to last me for 2 months. I did my maths to say, okay, if I make this transition, this will last me for 2 months. And in order for me to grow this business and never go back to corporate, what is it that I needed to do? And I can tell you now, the decisions that we made, some of them I think irrational in terms of, oh, we're going to set up an office in Sentin. By the way, we're still here in Sentin. Our offices are still in Sentin, where we started the business. And you move there and you realize that now over and above your personal expenses, you are now incurring business expenses where you have to pay people who are doing the work for you, where you are paying the landlord, and these are fixed. You will have to deal with them. And I think for me, the lucky part is that I was experienced in the industry. I was complying, of which I think later on we're going to touch about the importance of complying with a specific industry. I was networked in terms of the people. I remember at some point I did not have money to pay the employees, actually even to just pay a rent. And and I spoke to someone who knew me, and I said, you know what, this is what I'm doing now. Like, oh, by the way, we're looking for APCT. I was like, okay, let's do it. And we did that deal, paid within 2 days. I was like, Jesus Christ, what a lifesaver. But then I sat down with a friend of mine from the US. I remember, like, you know what, I'm just worried about our financial. I was like, Sabel, you have a business case. Just go out there, push this thing. You are known, you can do this thing, and really, really work so damn hard. I can tell you now, we run a multi-million business. We never looked back. It's not easy. You gotta work hard, work long hours, make sure that you know you add value to your clients, and that's how you're going to grow. But yeah, it's a very that's one of the stumbling blocks that actually makes people not to make that transition.
All right. Like I said before, that the first step will be obviously to max your personal credit limits. But then you would have a plan. There's this 3 months. You need to have equivalent of 3 months or 6 months or even 12 months of your salary. So that will be one. But what I would like to touch on when it comes to funding, I think we need to start having this paradigm shift that it's business, starting your business does not always rely on this external funding. We need to start looking at this bootstrapping where you're financing it to yourself or other ways of funding your business, like even using customer funded business model where the customer is the one that gives you the money up front, or a model where you're profitable from day one on each and every transaction. Because if this wanting money from outside, at times you can just consume you to death and actually bring you down. So I think that paradigm shift of saying, there are other ways of funding your gig. But you need to have something saved to take you.
Sorry, I'll be quick. If I can just add, one of the things that can assist you is also ensuring that you've got a coach. Like there's a couple of coaches here on the panel. Coaches can guide you in terms of what funding opportunities are there in your industry. For example, I'm assuming a lot of people here are youth, right? There's NYDA. Start doing that research before leaving to say, how can I access the funding from institutions like the NYDA, the CEDA. So doing that research before moving to find out how are other people in the industry you want to operate in getting external funding, particularly for those people who are entering into a company that's going to be very much capital investment. So find out how people in your industry are getting funding can definitely assist you.
Thank you very much. I don't want to then not hear knowledge and insights from the other panelist members. If you're okay for me to then move on, I can move on to the next question. Okay, no, thank you so much. I think, colleagues, now that we have gained insights in terms of how do we then transition from employment to entrepreneurship, and I've also covered in terms of the finances, minor side, how do we prepare ourselves, how do we then finance the company or the entrepreneurship journey that now we have taken. I think then the follow-up question for me will, in terms of spotting the gap within the market, how does one go about in terms of identifying the unmet needs within the market so that you can turn those particular ideas into profitable business? Is it something that you take from your employment, the skill that you had leveraged from your employment, and identifying from there and turning it into a profitable business? Maybe I would like to hear from some of the panelist members.
Yeah, quite interesting. For me, I believe that in order for you to start a business, you have to do introspection. Look inside you and say, what skill do I have? And which platforms can I start my business on using my skill? Because if you're going to use the skill that you have, it will accelerate the growth of your business. And it will minimize the expenses. You won't have to pay expertise to come and work with you and for you. So it would allow you to kind of build your business with the knowledge that you have acquired, with the experience that you have acquired. And that way, it's going to work better. When it comes to the business where you just put money because you have the money, then where can I invest? Then you are an investor, you are not an entrepreneur. Because you just looked for existing opportunity and you have money to buy into it, then you can do that. Because an investor is somebody that spots somebody with an idea or a business where they can make money. Not what they think will make money for them, but it's what they think will grow their money. So you either choose to be an investor or to start from the scratch yourself. If you choose to be an investor, it means that you can identify somebody that's running an Uber business with one car and say, if I buy another car, how much can we share as a profit? That does not make you now an entrepreneur. You invested in that business. But if you start Uber business from the scratch, then you need to do research. Don't just work in on assumption that somebody is profitable already. Because they may be profitable in a business that is going to die in the next 3 months or so. It's possible. Because some of the businesses that you see them flourishing, you'd find that their lifespan they have expired in the market. There is something new that is coming. And you see this person making money. I mean, how many started the Celsi containers in those days and Vodacom containers? Now those containers have become more like your storage, a storeroom and so on. So you need to check and say, where is the market trend going before you can even go into business? Because those that you aspire that they are making it successfully, they are already planning their exit. They won't tell you. Thank you.
Sure, there's a lot of scary stuff. The idea is not really to scare your colleagues. I think is to share the experiences. I have a different view about the concept of entrepreneurship in terms of it as a process of establishing an enterprise. I think up to so far we've been talking about how do I make money, how do I offer my services. And the reason why it took me that long, and I'm not regretting about it, as I say, we're 27 years old. 1st of August 1997 is when I started. It's because I decided to fund my business out of trade financing, customer finance, my own financing, so that I don't have a pressure to comply with the requirements of a particular funder. But I had time. I looked forward, I could tell that actually I have time, and because I've got an idea of a type of a business I want to start. So I wasn't looking at dropping boxes or products or services. I was looking at establishing an enterprise. I think it's very important that when we take decision to exit, to decide whether we want to solve problems that exist now because of what we have as a product or service, or we want to establish an enterprise. The reason why many businesses get started and disappear is because they really don't have a concept. They don't want to establish an enterprise that is going to live beyond your life. Many of us, we start businesses and we want to harvest it in our lifetime. That's not an enterprise. That's really you are looking for opportunities to create value and earn money. And that's why we're going to die and leave nothing behind. If you look at the many enterprises and organizations that exist, people who started them, they might have had the vision, but somehow they realized that actually you are doing something beyond your lifetime. So starting an enterprise needs certain things. And exactly one of those points is if you are going to look at the funding, you need to look at the type of a funding that is going to be with you for a very long time. And one of those funding, as my brother was saying, is that you have to look at your customers as your funders. Now, if you are like me as an executive coach, you have to consume me in my presence, right? So I don't send something called coaching. I'm a coach. I'm the person in front of you. So I knew that the type of service I have is required, right? And I knew that if there is energy in me, there's going to be activity, and if there's activity, there's going to be something giving back, right? So the laws of nature are there. The laws of the universe will never let you down. If you really believe that this is a product that everybody was willing to pay, and therefore I'm going to package it and deliver it through an enterprise, you need to decide whether you're going to establish the enterprise first or you're going to start running. So that's that decision I took. Because developing an enterprise is a long term and is very difficult, and you have got a lot of things that really will stop on your way. So you must understand, it took me 3 years before people could accept that I'm not available for corporate work. Why? Because they know me as a corporate. So you walk in, you want to sell, you say, but can we employ you? We need something like you. I said, no, I'm now doing my own stuff. The brother was talking about branding. It's the positioning, right? So are you prepared to start an enterprise, and are you prepared to even project its life cycle, visualize the life cycle, give timelines, know that it's going to take me 5 years in the introduction phase. Don't do things in the introduction phase that are the things that are done by organizations that are matured, because you're not going to be able to carry them. They are heavy. And you need to know when it's a time when you are ready to go to the market. I couldn't go to the market as Comeza, because Comeza was not known, but Sam was known. Sam was known as a good corporate change agent and employment equity specialist. Everywhere you go, they hire you. So I needed to change that. And then it took me 5 years for the people to start saying, no, Sam is not available for employment. He's actually somebody who's developing an enterprise. You can't jump those stages. If you don't build a brand, the business have problems, you can't come out. That's why they say that with a good brand, you can sell anything. So you start a business, you give it the type of a brand name, the name that you can't even actually package. It took me almost 10 years. I couldn't decide on the name of my business. Why? Because it can't just be any name. It has to be something that is going to speak to my identity. Now, what we do, we shy away from investing in things like those because they are taking away from your profit. But those things, later on, you'll have to go back and redo them, and it's going to cost you even more. That's why, yes, to go into Uber is very easy, but that's not an enterprise, right? That's why when the market dies, that business dies. So at some stage, Commerza was known for facilitations of diversity, employment equity, because those things were needed. There were even people called employment equity managers in my time. At some stage, coaching came in. Coaching now is like a gold rush. I was telling the brothers here. I shifted now. I'm in the human capital management and leadership space. But that is just defining who I am. But there I do coaching, I do mentoring, I do facilitation, but you need to know where the market is going there. So it cost me a lot of my own money to become a compliant enterprise. So when I say I'm Commerza GOC International Pty Limited, I mean that. It's costly to sustain it at that level. So what I'm doing in terms of helping those who are in corporate who wants to transition, I do what I call very important people service. So if I know that you have got time that you can spare with me as a coach and mentor, but you are still employed, I offer what I call professional incubation. In other words, I help brothers and sisters who are in corporate who can't do the work because their time doesn't belong to them, but they can do after hours work under my name of my organization, and I mentor them and coach them. So when they leave already, they are already actually having experience. It's not always important for you to start establishing enterprise if you have a connection with people like us. Like for instance, when I tell people that there's a shortage of coaches, they say, what do you mean? Because everybody I come across call them coach. I'm talking about real, qualified, credentialed coaches who can be deployed out there and make a difference. There are many that could actually transition into that. So you need to move with times. But if you don't have an enterprise, when that product dies, you'll die with it. Because there's no enterprise where you can house a new product. That's why people with marketers and branding people are very important. The first thing you need to develop is a brand. And that brand is your identity. If you die tomorrow, your children can take it and run with it. But if you don't brand it, if you die, nobody can do anything with what you have started. So decide, you go into business, you're going to start something, it's going to take long, it must outlive you. Then you are developing enterprises. And that is really my argument, that you have to think very seriously about it. It must be something that's going to outlive you. Because nobody owns businesses. I don't own Commerza. I know we go around, I own a business. You can never own a business. You own shares or units in that business if you really meaningfully want to start enterprise. If when you are dead, nobody can take that run with it, that's not a business. And we need to change this because in South Africa, since 1994 to date, I don't think we created really, truly businesses that will outlive us. That's why we don't see black businesses emerging in aggressive ways, because they are not designed to outlive us. They're designed to live with us. And when we disappear, they disappear with us. That is my argument. I might be wrong, but I view it that way in terms of the new type of entrepreneurs we need. We need to leave the legacy that our children can continue when we are gone. Then you have started enterprise. Then you are changing the nation.
Hey, Mr. Nzima. Hey, yeah. Yeah. I guess the one thing I can say there is For a lack of a better word, I would say word. So how do you actually identify and capitalize on the viable business opportunities and actually figure out which business is actually a business? I would say, first thing, you need to be in it to win it. And from that point, I would say leaning heavily on the skills and the exposure and the knowledge that you already have is fundamentally very, very, very important. And I say this very carefully because sometimes we sometimes we want to go into a business because we saw another guy become very successful. I think it must have been Tim Begwai who said it's a Me Too business. That fundamentally most of the time is not really a business. It's something that's going to make you cash for a short interim. And if you're going to go into entrepreneurship, this is my personal view, and I think a number of the panelists here will actually agree with me. You need to create something that lives 2 or 3 generations ahead. And that cornerstone of what you build there needs to be able to facilitate an X amount of people employed and an Y amount of lives impacted in a positive manner. Those are the things which I always say when we start businesses, even when we're launching a product. Is it actually positively impacting the society you're actually in? Is there growth? Yes, at some points you will take away from some people, but that shouldn't be the aim. As long as you put the society in a better position than it once was, for me, I feel that then you've struck gold. Because if there's a need for whatever the service you provide, because at some point you provide a service, it might be a physical product, or it might be something that's not tangible, and something you can't touch. But if you're providing something, there needs to be somebody on the other end who needs it. And then look at the market. Are there enough people? If the answer is no, it doesn't mean you don't have a business. Now you know that now you have a duty if you're still going to continue down that path, because there's an innovation area that can happen there, where you also need to teach and literally let people know that there's this thing that helps you with A, B, C, and D. Nobody else is offering it. I do. And if it's something that already exists, what makes you different? So if there were 2 people in the room that I had to choose from, why would I go with you? And it can't be only price, by the way. Because even your pricing, I'll tell you from a brand perspective, at times, your pricing can attract certain types of customers which are not your customers. Happens on both the scales, up or down. And these are key things fundamentally when we developing a brand. When we sit down, we're like, okay, who do you really want to serve? What is it that you do? What do you love doing? What is it? And then there's a number of ways to branch off that and then find out what is actually a need in the market and what could be a need in the market. Because when you start the business, the question I usually ask is, okay, 3, 5, 10, and then tell me 50 years. It sounds a bit crazy because a lot happens in a space of a year. In fact, a lot happens in the space of 2 hours, because we hadn't started this conversation, but you've already shifted your mindset to some form or another. But when you're building that brand and you're deciding on that entrepreneurial journey and that business, there's a common thread which you always live with. The question is, what is that? And I think the person who says it the best is Simon Sinek. He says starts with the why. And when you build it from that why, everything around it will change, but the core value will stick all the time. And that's what people are left feeling. And if you do that, the rest just becomes easier and easier. Because whatever you add on and you decide to actually offer your clients, they'll almost just take it. Clear example, Apple. Apple is a computer company, and they remove the computers. Now they basically sell you a lifestyle. There's a feeling you get. you think of a Nike also. Similar thing. Even though they're selling a commodity, which is basically shoes, because we don't want to walk around without shoes, right? But that's not what you know them for either. There's a feeling you get, and I would go on with other brands, but I think you get the point. Start with that core part and depart from there. Then the rest literally just starts falling in line, falling in line, falling in line, and as you might have actually started the business, once you get people coming in to assist and they become your colleagues, they actually start innovating for you. At some point, your customers, when they are complaining, and we don't like complaints, right? But if you look closely to the data, they're actually giving you a solution. And they become your custodians of what your innovation actually is and what your offering actually is. And then that's how you actually continue to find ways of actually adding another bundle, adding other ways of making money.
Thank you very much, panelist members. I think we have breached our own ground rules. We're supposed to have a tea break at 10:30, but these things always happen, especially with heated conversations that we're having. So I would like us to then have a tea break now. It's 10:45 on my watch. We'll then return at 11 sharp. We'll then engage in terms of creating a solid business model, as well as looking at managing personal as well as business risks. And lastly, in terms of how to overcome entrepreneurial challenges. And our panelist members will be then taking us through that, those three discussions. And then we'll then open the floor to our esteemed audience for you guys to then critique our panelist members, as well as share your thoughts so that they can also learn from you. They also need to be fed through your knowledge as well, or through your questions or your line of questions. So colleagues, all then with the powers vested in me as the host, I'd like us to then take a mini break now, and then we'll then come back. Please don't leave. Let's come back and engage.